Welcome to the Pivot Experience podcast, where leadership transformation isn't just a concept, it's a journey we take together. This is where real leaders share real stories about the moments that changed everything. In each episode, we dive deep into the pivotal experiences that transformed good leaders into great ones. Whether you're a seasoned executive, a rising star in your organization, or someone ready to take that next big step in your leadership journey, you're in the right place. Get ready to learn, grow, and maybe even find that spark that ignites your own leadership pivot. This is the Pivot Experience podcast, where your next breakthrough starts here.
All right, guys, welcome to Lead Better. This month's Lead Better is brought to you by the good folks at the Pivot Experience this month. You're going to be looking and talking to us. And so I want to say, first of all, thank you guys so much for showing up on a Sunday night. I know this is normally our day of rest, but anytime we get a chance to come together to talk about matters of leadership, it is very exciting to me, and I know it's exciting to you all. My name is Alex, and I've had the pleasure and the joy for working for the world's most caring company for the last 23 years. And I am joined by an incredible group of people. We started this journey, I say almost, just about 4 years ago. And I'm fortunate enough to have a group of people who is just as crazy about helping leaders grow and advance as I am. And I want to introduce those great group of people to you. First and foremost, I'm going to start with our beloved gavel. That is Miss Giovanna Roach. She has been with the world's most caring company for now 24 years. She's going on 25 years. I jokingly tell her she is reaching her silver member status in the Chick-fil-A world very soon. She is, today is Sunday. I don't want to call her a seasoned saint, but she is a seasoned and tenured individual in the Chick-fil-A world, a wealth of knowledge and information, someone who we are very glad to have on the team here at TPE. She's batting 1,000%. I don't want to jinx her, but I think she's batting 1,000% right now in terms of her success rate. I might be getting a little bit too far ahead of us, but I definitely think she's doing a lot of great work. Giovanna Roach is with us today. Also, we have Ashley Allison. She plays a huge role in what we do here at TPE. If you hadn't noticed, the majority of us are over 30. Well, not half the staff. We're outnumbered now. We're not as old as we used to be, but for some of us are a little older. But she represents our younger leg. She is I have a new word that I like to use now, progressive leg of our organization. Ashley, we're so glad to have you on today, and she's joining us super remote. And I don't want to tell all of her business, but she is hanging out with her family, and so if she is not as responsive, please, I totally understand, because she's with her family and on assignment. So thank you so much for being here today. And then we also have Neff, who is our Swiss Army knife. He is our tech guru, our bilingual coach, anything to do with leadership development. He is one of our sturdy coaches here at TPE. We love what he does. I love hearing all the feedback from the people that he coached. They're super excited about the work that he does in their lives, and I appreciate you for that, Neff. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have another coach who is not with us today. His name is Abram. He joins us from the East Coast. He also has, him and Neff have similar tenures with Chick-fil-A. Him, Neff, and Ashley have been around marginally around the same time, plus or minus a year or two. But he is also a coach here. He is actually pursuing a career with becoming an operator. So we're happy that he is on board with us. Again, this is Lead Better. And today we're essentially having a part 2 of our conversation that we had last month with Kyle Bowen. Last month, we talked about our dialogue, and that we were just encouraged and motivated to continue this conversation with a different framework. And we're talking about pivotal conversations today. But before we do that, we're going to do our traditional icebreaker, and it's going to be a little different today, because typically we do this with a guest, and now it's just with us. And so now it's going to be all of us are going to be participating in Tug-of-war today. So you guys are going to use your chat function. Okay, so everybody's going to participate today. It's not going to be a singular person, and I'm going to call on somebody from the chat. So let's be prepared to give to respond to that. So if you guys don't know what tug-of-war is, and we have a few new faces on the line, tug-of-war is I'm going to give you 5 sets of words. Okay, these words you would love to have all of these words existing alive and well in your organization, but you have to pick one. Okay, it is not fair for some of you guys who have been on our lead betters in the past. You guys know how this goes, and so if we're ready to play, if you put a 1 in the chat if your chat is ready. Put a 1 in the chat if your chat is ready. Giovanna's ready. Blake's ready. Owen's ready. Nev's ready. All right, we're all ready. Okay. All right. So first set of words: confidence or humility. Confidence or humility. So put in that chat for me, which one of those words would you pick? And if you're brave enough, type in why would you pick the one. So Neff is picking humility. So we got 1 vote for humility. All right. I know Neff is not alone out there. I got way more ones than there we go. Blake. All right. Humility. Humility is taking the lead by far. Owen, I see is getting you. Oh, Giovanna throwing a curveball in there, being anti just to be anti. No, I was kidding. All right. Okay. Confidence. Confidence is taking the lead now. Humility, we 50-50 now. Okay. All right. We've got some. Now, I'm going to ask. Let's see. I'm going to ask Blake. Because if you guys don't know, this Blake is an LDP. Blake is one of our clients here at TPE. I think me and Blake have a good time going back and forth in our sessions, and I can't wait till our next session, Blake. But why did you pick humility in this scenario?
I think humility comes in different forms, and that depends on what situation you're encountering. Humility can be a moment of encouragement. It can be a moment of tough love, but how you deliver that, I think, is the difference in the definition of humility and confidence. I think you can be confident and I guess you'd say have humility at the same time. So,
No, excellent, man. Great. Oh, he left. He answered and left. Look at that. All right. Hopefully he comes back. All right. Next set of questions. Next set of words. I'm sorry. Vision or execution. Vision or execution. Blake's back. Very good. Okay, execution.
sorry, I lost you in the hotel
all
room.
Good. It's all good. I say he answered and then left. So I mean, hey, dropped the mic and got out of there. Cool. All right. So I've got a couple of visions. Execution. Okay. Ooh. All right. Forgive me if I say this wrong. Is it Quentin?
Yes, sir.
All right, Quentin. And we got camera too. I didn't even have to ask. My man.
I was putting my daughter to bed. Sorry.
There we go. No, that's all right. Why did you pick execution over vision?
I think with execution, it's just one of those things of it kind of ignites that and fuels that team around you when you're going into lead and you're going into, let's just call it the signified battle. When you have that people around you, you go in. If you know how to move and you know how to do the things that need to get done, I believe that people will follow you into whatever vision you may want to cast or may want to do. There's a lot of people that are idea people, and there are people that can actually do it. And I just think that's it's very important, even just for me personally.
Okay, Quentin, come on with the sizzle today. I like that answer. Okay. And I'm going to give now. This is where it's going to get interesting, Quentin. I'm going to pick someone who picks something different. Giovanna, why did you pick vision over execution?
Well, so I think this question also depends on the role you're in the restaurant. So me as the operating partner, part of my role is to cast vision. And Neff will probably tell you this, like, I'm definitely the vision, but when it comes to execution, like, I've already moved on to something else by the time it's time to execute that thing. And so I've already passed that on to somebody else. So I think that depends on the role you're in. Like when I was a director in the restaurant, I would have said execution because that was my role. But I think my current role leads. And I also think without clear vision, execution can be just a lot of movement. And I think we even see that a lot in the restaurant where there's lack of clarity in vision. Like our team members, we talk about this a lot. We're working on some role clarity things, and our team members love to move. Like they just think that at least if I'm moving, like then I'm doing something. And so we even did a film study where like our team members are just moving all over the place, but nothing's really actually happening. Like we're not getting to where we want to go. And so I think in reality, to get like good execution, you have to have clear vision.
Excellent. Both great answers, guys. I love both of them. I love both where we're heading. All right. Are we ready for our third set of words, which is courage or wisdom? Courage or wisdom? All right. So, okay. Now this is so Quentin, thank you so much for participating. You are one of our newcomers. I want to ask one of our another newcomers to maybe if they will be brave to answer, have some courage to answer, because they answer with courage. They answer with courage. Philip, why did you select courage? If you can.
I selected courage because I think in any business you need a risk taker, and so I think with wisdom comes prior to that people who have taken their courage and taken risks and found out things that work and things that don't work. And so I think without that courage, you really don't know what it is that you lack or where you can get better. Of course, you have that wisdom that's like, okay, let me reflect and look back and see what worked, and then do things differently. But you had to have the courage to do that, to take that first step.
Love it. Love it. You definitely do. Definitely do. I like that. Everybody else except for Quentin answered with wisdom. And so I'm going to, Owen, why did you select wisdom?
I think wisdom shows up like kind of like when you're sitting down reflecting with it, and kind of allows you to, you might have a little bit of restraint with it, but it allows you to sit back, reflect on it, and learn from what might have caused that restraint, where you might want to take that risk the next time.
Good angle. Good angle. Okay. Next set of words, urgency or patience?
Oh man.
Urgency or patience? All right. Neff, why did you select urgency?
Urgency. I think, wow. Let me tell you why I didn't choose patience. You can't have patience when you haven't started nothing. Then you've done nothing. Like you're not going anywhere. So I think when we start with urgency, then once we've put things into motion, we can then have patience to let the results come to fruition. We can see how the system is going, and then we can have patience. But I think there's got to be urgency to start things.
Oh, I love it. And Quentin, you're on the island a bit on patience. Why did you select patience over urgency?
It's actually kind of a thing I learned from a firefighter friend of mine. He says when you first go into a fire, you don't just go running in. You analyze the situation, you analyze what's going on around you, analyze what your goal is, kind of just reverting back to what we talked about with vision, have that vision, and then you kind of start with the bits and pieces, and you start building whatever you got to build, whatever you got to do to get in there. And then you go in with urgency, because I think if you start urgent, you lead to more mistakes and you lead to more things that will set you up for failure instead of just going in with a level head and a better plan.
Okay, I love this dialogue. I love these opposing thoughts. All good stuff here. Okay, last one. Okay, we're almost out of there. Last one: clarity versus flexibility. No one jumped off the bridge fast. Everybody, the last few, it was the first one, boom, in there. No one's. There we go. Clear
Clear.
flexibility, Blake. You can't do a workaround. You can't do a workaround. Clear flex. Okay, clarity, flexibility. All right, Philip. I'm gonna since you're the new guy. I'm gonna tap on. Somebody has to. Philip, why did you select clarity?
I think I chose clarity because while flexibility is good, I think good teams thrive on structure. So when you provide that framework or like that, I guess like if I can say like sandbox around the rules that you set for them, I think it removes that like ample room for chaos that can happen. So like when chaos happens, it's good to be flexible, but when you have that clarity, it kind of provides a little bit of a back brace so that way you can face whatever kind of chaos that pops up. And of course, like being flexible helps, but having that clarity keeps people, I guess, on track.
Awesome. Great answer. Now,
I think clarity allows for flexibility. Like, so when we think about it, like, you know, let's use some Chick-fil-A words here. So let's talk profitability. If your operator says, hey, profitability wise, I want to be at 13%. Well, that's where you got to be. Like that's what they're telling you to try to achieve. But there's flexibility in achieving it. Like, where are we going to pull the levers? What are we going to do? Like there's things that you can do. But if there isn't a clarity in like, hey, this is a profitability we're okay with, then it's hard to be flexible. Like, because it's like, then you never feel like you're ever getting the results. And there's always frustration. Does that make sense?
no,
So
great.
I think with clarity, like it allows for flexibility. So I think one time you used to ask discipline or freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of our tug-of-wars. I think it's kind of the same thing. It's like discipline leads to freedom. So I think clarity leads to flexibility. So I don't know. That's picking two words. Blake, I'm sorry, I had the same thing. But I think that the words that he's at times throws out there, it's like this, like it's why it's called tug-of-war. It's like, so confidence and humility. I think I tell my clients, I'm like, you have to have confident humility. Like you can't show up as a leader and be like, you know, all right, guys, how's it? No. You have to be confident in the decisions you're making, but also humble at the same time, right? And so I think that like that's the beauty of tug-of-war. There's a lot of these words are like they go together. You got to put them together.
Right. And in the spirit of that, I was gonna let Blake give us his lukewarm answer. No, I was kidding. Let Blake give us his dual answer. And why do you think that?
Well, Giovanna already took it away, so she explained
I'm sorry, Blake.
You got to know when to be flexible, but you also have to know when your boundaries are there. But if you don't have the boundaries, then how can you be flexible? I
think LDP is like a perfect picture of this, and maybe Rod. I think Rod's still there. He might chime in, but it's like with LDP, there's a lot of flexibility, but there's also a lot of clarity. Like there are certain things you can and cannot do, but then there is that flexibility piece of like you can and can't do these things. But you're learning to be an owner of like what really matters to me. But you have to be upfront even with your team members. Like, hey, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. If you don't give them clarity, and especially in the LDP world, that's hard because they're either coming off another IM who gave them a different set of clarity, or they're coming from an operator who cared about something different. And so I think that's a really good position to learn a lot about clarity and flexibility.
No, definitely. So this conversation today is canvassing one of the most important pieces that we deal with as leaders, and that's in communication, specifically in the area of hard conversations, crucial conversations. We had the conversation internally as coaches to have this talk around crucial conversations because we felt that there was some really good information, really good frameworks out there that we could piggyback off of and to bring to you guys as a collective group of developing leaders to try to help all of us learn how to communicate better. And so this conversation, and you guys can see it if you can see Neff, is based off of the framework Crucial Conversations. And so some of this stuff is going to sound familiar to you if you're familiar with that framework. And so we're going to give our best ability to describe what these things mean to us. But I want to say this group has been the most interactive. This, number one, we're only 20 minutes in, and this is by far the most interactive Lead Better we've ever had, right? In terms of with non-TPE and non-guest individuals. So I want to keep that going. So if there's anything that you guys see as you need to raise your hand, you want to add a comment, this conversation is not only ours, but it's y'all's too. You know what I mean? To interact with us, because we're fortunate enough to have somebody who's currently in LDP, someone that's in the process of becoming an LDP. And I'm gonna tell you a little bit of your business, Philip. I know you want to be an LDP, so we've got a wide range of intent here. Some people can speak into the real liveness of it. Some people can speak into the process, and then so we're all here to help each other. So again, we're talking about Crucial Conversations in this first segment. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Neff, I'm so thankful to you for bringing this up, because in reading some of this first information, it kind of punched me in the chest a little bit, right? I might be putting a little sauce on it, a little gut check though, for real, because it talks about checking your motives when you come into a conversation. I don't know about you, as I guess as a person who's fighting for time each and every day, most of my conversations are very intentional, and I'm not gonna lie, they are saturated with some type of motive. And when I ask myself this question, am I entering the conversation to win, to punish, or to create understanding? I'm usually in the front half of those selections. Okay, I'm there to win or to punish, and I realize, hey, as the leader, that is not the right thing to do. Right. And I might be overexposing myself here. Okay. Those of you who are clients of mine, please just hear me out. Okay. You've been there. I've been there. We're all there. Okay. And so I am looking forward to this conversation, because it's going to force all of us, hopefully not just me, but all of us, to take a hard look in how are we showing up for conversations, especially these ones that are crucial. So I'll ask you guys, if y'all would be as honest as I was just now, how do you approach the conversations that you have to get into that are difficult? What are your motives? I just told you mine. And let me tell you this. Let me back up a little bit. Like that sounded really bad. All of my conversations are rooted in trying to make sure that our restaurant's vision is executed, and all the things we want to do is executed. I might not have the best intent on how I'm delivering that in the course of the conversation to get to the result. So I know I need to be better at that. And so I think I saw a comment. Quentin, what did you say? Let's see. It says, I think intentionality is key to me. Do you care to expound on that?
Yeah. So going into those crucial conversations, what are my intentions? And I also, when I go into them, I try not to build someone else's intentions in my head. I like to ask and get clarity from them. What was your thought process on this? If we're just talking about this just from a leader standpoint, what was your thought process when you did that? Like, what were you thinking? And I kind of do that when I first start out, even when I get someone to train or comes underneath me, that I ask them, I said, I'm going to ask you guys why, because I need to know what's going on in your head. So because I need to understand, what are your intentions? Are you trying to do the best thing for yourself? Are you doing the best thing for the business? Are you doing the best thing for the operator? What is your intentions? And then we can expound on that and go from there. So that way I know, look, you can say, hey, it was just a bad judgment call, but I was really just trying to do the best for the people in, let's just say, the kitchen for Chick-fil-A standpoint, or the best intentions for my operator because he said he wanted profit to be 13%. And I just think that's what matters to me. Now, if I know you came in with good intentions, but you didn't really hit the mark or you're really off there, then I can just say that. I can just say, you know what? Thank you for explaining that more, kind of like that seeking to understand. But that won't it. Like you're way off base here. Like this is what I would have did. I could either give them a real life example, or I could just tell them this is the direction we should be trying to go if we're trying to hit whatever goal that is.
No, I love that. That I think that's something that we all can install. Like, hey, what were you trying to get accomplished there? That's, I think, a simple, easy way to diffuse and get yourself on the same page with that individual. I love that. Thank you, Quentin.
I would say too, just like, okay, so there's a couple of things you said, Quentin, that were like at the top of my head when it comes to like what I really want to get out of a conversation. I think the first thing is, and you said this, seek to understand the other person. So ask a lot of questions. So don't go into a conversation with, oh, I knew their intention. I knew what they were trying to do. Most of the time too, we even like tell ourselves a story of like, they were trying to be malicious. Like they didn't even. And so I think first thing is seek to understand and ask a lot of questions. And then I think the second piece that I go in is like, if we're really going to be the world's most caring company, I have to go into every conversation with care. And that's going to look different for the other person on the other side of the conversation. I have some leaders that, they want me to be more direct. Okay, so I'm going to have to go into that conversation being more direct. I have some leaders that if I were to go in as direct as I wanted to go into the conversation, it wouldn't fare well. Their defense would just like pop up. And so, I think at the end of the day, if we're going to say we're the world's most caring company, that we have to go into conversations with that ingrained in our brain. I'm going to ultimately care for this person. Now, that doesn't mean that you sugarcoat it. Because a lot of times when we think of the word like care for people, we're like, okay, well, I need to sugarcoat it. No. Actually, when you truly care about someone, you will have the difficult conversation and you will be honest. And so that's not what being the world's most caring company actually means. It means like, hey, I'm going to be honest with this person. And I think even some of those like really hard conversations, like the ones where it's like, hey, I'm going to fire you, which those conversations are really hard. But at the end of the day, you're doing it because you care about the business and you care about the individual. And obviously they're not, fit for what you're trying to do. If we hold on to that team member, which is what we do a lot of times, we're not actually showing care to them by keeping them on the roster. There's certain points where it's time to be like, okay, this is just not working out. And so I think those two things is like going with seeking to understand the situation first. Don't let yourself tell yourself a story that's not actually true. And then the second part is going with a care meter, whatever you want to call that. Like my job is to make sure that the other person on the other side of the conversation feels cared for. Now, there's going to be moments, especially when you're firing somebody, that they don't feel cared for in that moment, but you know that it is the right thing to do. And so that's what you need to do because you do truly care about the other person.
And to add on to that, even before we do all those things, even before we explain all of our intentions, I think it's important to take time to just sit down and process the emotions that we're having. Because if we can't control our emotions at the beginning of the conversation, we can't expect to control the outcome of that conversation. And many times, like when we're having to have a crucial conversation, it's typically because the emotions are high. There's things that are at stake. And sometimes we go in thinking we're in control, but in the moment, everything that we had scripted in our brains and in our heads goes out the window. And then we say things that we may later regret down the road when we start seeing tears roll down the other person's face, when we start seeing surprised faces, right? When we get a text later on in the day, hey, I just don't feel like that went really well. And that's because we went in thinking we had control of our emotions, but we really didn't because we never took time to really get out of that fight or flight zone in our bodies. And it typically takes, they say, about 20 minutes to get out of fight or flight. Although for some of us, it might take 24 hours or 12 hours. Everybody's different, but you got to know how your body responds to opposing views, to different situations, so that you can go into conversations in a healthy way where you really seek to understand what really happened and you're not just pouring out frustration into the situation that's going on.
No, that is so good, Neff. Like literally, you brought up emotions, and I was going to bring this up as something that we always do. And I said not always do, but at least in the beginning of a new client relationship, we talk about emotions at the very beginning. And I think that's such a critical step of what we do with the client, with our clients, is just to understand, like, hey, what are you feeling right now? And that has been so. It's just been helpful just to kind of get that out in the front, like let's put that on, and then so for me as a coach, I get to understand of like, well, you've had a rough go at it, haven't you? Or things are going great, so you kind of understand. So to your point, Neff, like just even in those instances, we use it in the coaching environment. Definitely, it makes sense in the working environment when we're having those conversations to understand what are my emotions, and am I emotionally intelligent enough to understand what the other person's emotions are too. Blake, I don't want to brush over your comment. I want you to you said some really cool stuff at the back half of this about music, and I think this is a kind of a culture thing. I want you to explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so actually it came across from a time that we have Connect for the LDP program, and there was a gentleman who was talking about like what song do you want to project when you walk into the room, and to think about the preparation for that song. And so whether that be you want the outcome of the audience to have, whether that be the person in front of you, whether that be the numbers that you want as your outcome as your audience, like how do you go into that song, and then what kind of song do you project in that moment? So you think about the difference between when you get in your car at the end of a stressful day, you're going to put on a different song compared to when you get in the car and you've hit the car count goal of 350 cars in the drive-through, right? You're going to put on a different song to meet where you are. And so when you go into any conversation, whether that be a crucial conversation of firing or disciplining or giving an opportunity to encourage, I think the way you walk into that conversation is the difference between, meeting them where they're at or them being turned off completely and getting on the defensive mode rather than on an offensive mode when I'm a part of your team.
No, and I think and I think it's fitting that you bring up music, because I know you have a background in music. But I will say this: and Giovanna and Neff, I think you guys may have been around long enough to remember this. Maybe there was I remember we had a leadership conference in our area a while back, and there was a gentleman by the name of Tim Elmore. He came and he had a conversation, and I remember his illustration, and it jumped off the page to me. Somebody, this might be dating myself a little bit. Have y'all ever heard of Mrs. Doubtfire? It's a movie with Robin Williams, and he dresses up as the nanny to be able to go hang out with his kids, right? So, are you familiar with the movie Jaws? Everybody knows the soundtrack to Jaws. Mm-hmm. And so he put up Mrs. Doubtfire, the visual, and then took the music from Jaws and put it on top of it. And he said, now, does that fit? Like when you're looking at that and you're hearing that music, those emotions don't mix. And so when it's a great illustration of the music that is playing is the soundtrack of the culture that we want to have existing in our organizations. And so I'll pare that down to the conversation, like what sound or what symbolism in the musical form do you want to have that conversation feel like at the end? Do you want it to feel like the funeral organ playing at the end when everybody's walking out of the door, or do we want Bruce Springsteen's guitar? I'm just making stuff up now at this point. I'm just trying to find people's address. But I think he plays a guitar. I believe he does. But do we want that guy, doing his thing versus the death organ? I think we want the latter. So no, I love that. What we've been talking about here is about creating a safe space in order for people to communicate themselves. I think some of the things Quentin has talked about, Neff, in terms of checking those emotions. And so is there anything that you guys do that hasn't been discussed? I know, Neff, it is a terrible feeling to be in the middle of a conversation and tears start to roll. I remember a younger me would be like, "Oh, I'm really having a hard conversation. I'm having a good conversation now because that's what's happening." Now, an older, much mature me understands that's wrong. So, what are some ways that haven't been discussed already that you guys create a safe environment for people to express themselves? Or when you recognize that we've breached that emotional threshold, what are some things that you can do to bring it back to a safe place?
I think two things prior to having any like hard conversation. One, I think the first thing is don't do it alone. So there, to me, like in our organization, anytime we have to have like a harder conversation with somebody, it's always 3 people. So because that keeps it neutral. It's not a he said, she said, he did, she did, those kind of environments. Also too, when it's between like a male and a female, like you always want to have another male or female in the room. So I think that's key. And then 2, whoever you decide on as that third person, to me, it needs to be somebody who has created a relationship with that person past work. So there are times where like I see something going on, but I'm not going to be the one that has that conversation. I'm actually going to pass that on to Neff or to like one of our GMs or whatever, because I know that they've built a relationship with that person. And so it's not going to be like, oh, she just showed up and like is frustrated with me because I did X, Y, or Z. Like I always say I haven't put enough pennies in the bank with that specific individual. And if it's a serious enough thing that I need to be involved, I'm going to have somebody else in the room that has formed a relationship with that person. So I think those are 2 key things to keep the emotions in check. Like if you do those 2 things, typically, I mean, there's still sometimes going to be tears and there's still going to be like hurt feelings and all the things at times. But as long as there's a neutral party that has some sort of relationship with a person, it typically goes better than if it was just you and that person alone.
No, that's I think that's key, especially when the conversation is definitely, you don't think it's going to be a lighthearted conversation. Adding that extra person just to eliminate the he say, she say at a very minimum, to eliminate that, I think that's key. Anyone else?
I was going to say, I put it in the chat as well, but pairing it with people with those different personalized emotional tools, like sometimes you need that really sympathetic or empathetic person. Sometimes you need someone that's going to deliver the message the way it needs to deliver, because sometimes, it may lead to tears, but sometimes you got to give them a real reality check. And then there's times like you deliver a message, but you're not trying to hurt feelings. Let's just say you're trying to keep their emotions at bay. You're trying to make sure that you give them the message and trying to not mess anything up with them. But that other person can be like, yes, also, don't forget about this. Don't forget our times when, just like Giovanna said, with that time with that relationship we had that issue. And we can say we tried to address it. We tried to go farther with this. I think it holds a higher level of accountability if you are more emotionally aware than maybe that person that started the meeting.
No, excellent. Very good. Very good. Blake, you got a comment?
Yeah, I think, yeah, so I think sometimes we walk into conversations with our agenda, and this is how I'm going to go into it, and this is the outcome. We talked about that a little bit. But what happens when you have the opportunity to hear where they are? And I posted in the comment that sometimes the silence is the biggest time that you can learn the most. And I'm not saying sit there and stare at them like awkwardly, but sometimes I think giving the moment of just listening to what's happening in that moment, you can learn a lot from that person and about that situation.
No, and I'll add to that, like, and you guys don't never have a chance to see this, but we use a tool. For those of you who use coaching with us, we use a tool called Fathom that records the calls, and there's a little percentage thing in the corner that says how much time you've been talking versus the other person. That has been to me, I've been kind of just glancing at that, kind of going like, well, I want to make sure that they're talking more, I try to make sure that's a balance. So that's, to me, to you saying that, so everybody doesn't have a percentage in front of them in their glasses and nothing like that when you're talking to somebody. But I think it's a good reminder to think about, like, hey, don't hog the conversation. And so I try to think about that in my real conversations. Go like, don't hog the conversation. Like, let that person talk. Let them get that out. You don't have to fill every ounce of airspace with verbiage. You can let it flow. Let them have the room. So I love that.
I just want to add to what Blake said. Like there is a lot to learn during silence when you don't speak. And I think naturally when we feel threatened or when we feel challenged, we tend to defend. And so when we're in a conversation with another person where we have opposing views, I think we forget to respect. And we can respect people by allowing them to talk, by allowing them to express their emotions. And then many times we will tend to defend our point of view, our organization, our decision, because we think it was right. And even if it was right, it still could have caused a negative emotion to the other person or could have hurt somebody in some other way. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think just listening to the other person express how they felt, what they viewed, their opinions, I think that makes a safe space for the other person, not interrupting them and saying, okay, but do you remember, or, but you don't realize, you don't see all the things going behind the curtain. And it's, yeah, like they don't. And, that's why we're in different tiers. That's why some people get paid more, some people get paid less. That's why you have a different title. They have a different title. Like they don't understand. And so you can't put your assumptions and what you know on them. Like put yourself in their shoes and realize what it's like to be on the other side of you in that conversation. That's going to create a safe space for that conversation.
Yeah, I think that's probably something that I know I can probably do better at. How is it to experience me? I don't think enough of us probably don't think about things in that capacity. Maybe until it's too late. I find myself reflecting after the fact. When I go home, I go, ooh, that conversation probably I could have handled that a little bit better. But I think that's a great call out, Neff. How would you feel if you were sitting in the chair across from you in that regard? So I love that. I want to kind of land on this last piece here. Turning the talk into tangible next steps. I think we've had a great lead better so far in terms of the approach. How do we enter the conversation? Where should we be at emotionally and things of that sort. But at the end of the day, when we have these conversations, these crucial conversations, it's for us to provoke changed behavior, right? From the individuals that we're talking about or talking to rather. And so like, how do we go about, okay.
Before we get into the end, so because you're getting towards the end of the conversation, and I was just looking over these notes. One thing that I think is important, and like I'll say that Neff, I was on vacation 2 weeks ago, and Neff had to have a really crucial conversation with the leader that was really hard. And I even called him after. I'm like, how would it go? But and we had decided on like who was going to be in that conversation since I wasn't going to be there, and one of the leader that was not Neff, that was going to be in the conversation as well, was bringing up some things that this leader had done. And I was like, no. We're going to focus on the main thing. Like, you can't bring everything into the conversation because then that's like you're keeping tally on the person, right? Like, but you didn't take out the trash yesterday and you didn't do this the day before. And then 3 days before that, you didn't make this happen. And like, it's like you created this laundry list of problems, right? And realistically, as a leader, that's pretty poor performance on your part if you have to create a laundry list, because then that means that you have not communicated as things have come up. Hey, this, like, we need you to do better here. Keep the main thing the main thing. And so I think a lot of times in conversations, especially when they start to get defensive and then, it gets back to you and it's like, well, don't you remember what you did a month ago? And it's like, we're bringing up all of these things. So when you're in that conversation, and I've said this, like, prepare for it and know, okay, we're going to focus on this thing because this is the thing that we're going to come to talk about, and not the laundry list of things that the team member, the leader, whoever it is, has done wrong in their whole tenure at Chick-fil-A for the last 10 years. Because that's typically what happens is it's like goes back and forth and it's like, well, you did this. Well, I did this. Well, she did this. No, let's just keep it. What's the one thing we're here to talk about today? And don't bring up 18 other things.
Yeah. That is so good, Giovanna. So good. Because yeah, I think we all naturally have a tendency to dig in that and dig back. But great, again, nothing but a whole lot of good call outs here today. make sure we focus on the main thing. So I love that. Thank you so much, Giovanna. All right. Now I wanted to again kind of pivot us into just what does getting the actions out of the conversation look like for you all? What do you do? And Neff, I want to recognize and applaud. I mean, I love your contributions to the conversations today. You've been much more than a support. So I'm going to toss it to you on this for this directly, straight up for this one. Let me get my camera ready. Hold on, wait, let me pin you. But how do you get results out of a crucial conversation? We've gotten to the point in which we need to kind of certify what needs to happen from this conversation. How do you go about doing that?
Well, so I think first you want to ask, once you kind of run through the steps of the conversation with the person, you kind of establish what the problem is, where we're trying to go, how we need to get there. You want to ask them what they think the solution is to the problem, right? Let them talk. Let them ask questions. Like sometimes they do have the solution. They don't need us to provide it. And if they can provide it for themselves, it's going to be way better than you telling them what you think they should do. So that would be the first one. And if that one doesn't work, then you are the one as a leader that has to provide the solution. And you say, hey, in order to go from A to B, these are the steps that we need to take. And so I need you to do this by this time, this by this time. And then I'm going to check in with you at the end of X amount of days, and we're going to follow up on this, right? Because a lot of times we leave conversations without any deadlines, without any actions, and we forgot to do anything that we established in that conversation. And 2 weeks from now, we're going to end up having the same conversation again because there was nothing that was actually accomplished in that conversation. And so it's super important that we establish timelines and deadlines in those conversations for there to be some traction and production in whatever that situation was. And so I think as leaders, many times we do a poor job of that. We do a poor job of following up. And sometimes it's because we go into the conversation unprepared. And so we're just ready to jet out of the office or jet out of our chair because we're so uncomfortable because we weren't really ready to have the conversation, or it went a whole different direction than what we thought it was going to go. And so we end up scattered and we don't set any tangible actions. But I think in order to get somewhere, there's got to be some tangible things to be able to follow up on.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Essentially, like who does what by when, is the deliverable that I'm hearing from you. And I think the thing would be, I guess, in practical application, what does that look like for you? Like, is that a form? Is that a note? Is that like what do you do to keep the all parties accountable to the things that you guys say y'all want to do?
Yeah, it depends on the situation, right? One that I typically use when I go through this example is like, let's say we have a team member, Sally, and she's typically late. And you run it through all the things we've talked about today, right? And you come to the conclusion that Sally just can't wake up early in the morning. You know, she's just not a morning person. She's not going to wake up at 5 a.m. to get to work by 6. And so you say, hey, Sally, in order for you to, still continue to be employed here, I think it'd be best for you to change your availability for 7 a.m. if that fits in your organization and fits with whatever y'all have going on, right? And so then you say, hey, Sally, by the end of today, what I need you to do is to go on Hot Schedules or whatever scheduling app you use, put in a new availability, and send me and the scheduler a message to confirm that has been put in. In 2 weeks from now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a reminder on my phone to follow up with you, and I'm going to pull up your time punches for the last payroll, and we're going to sit down for 5 minutes and just go through and make sure that that's not an issue anymore. And if it is, we will just have to discuss what the next steps need to look like for us, right? And so then it's really clear to Sally what she needs to do, when we're going to follow up on, what we're going to follow up on, and what the expected outcome is.
No, so
I'll also say Ned he puts it on his Google Calendar.
There you go, yeah.
if he's got to follow up, he just puts in follow up with so-and-so today. And so he knows, like, I mean, I do the same thing. You got to go put a reminder in your calendar. Like, I got to follow up with this person today.
If you
Well,
don't
and
write
then
it down,
and
think
and,
about
and
it.
here's the deal: if you don't, it doesn't get done.
Correct.
So I think sometimes what gets recorded, gets done, or what doesn't get recorded doesn't get done. That's why I wanted you to kind of say like what was the practical like, hey, because here's the thing: there's so much stuff going on in the organization all day. Like you have a conversation, you can easily forget to follow up. So I just wanted to just kind of give somebody a very easy go to the calendar, put it in your phone. Then now you gotta when you get the notification, you have to move on it, you have to act on it. But no, definitely. Anybody else have anything out there that they do to generate results after those crucial conversations?
I was just gonna add, I was like, you can schedule emails, or now on Apple, you can schedule text message to be sent out just as a reminder. So like, if you want to be way, way ahead, as soon as you have that conversation, make an email to and schedule it. I was gonna say another thing I like to do is just make sure that the team member, sorry, Bernard, yeah, I don't know, make sure the team member try to repeat what the solution is to make sure that they understand it. Because a lot of times you can say and you leave the conversation and you're like, hey, I know for sure they got the point, and then come in tomorrow and they're like, hey, so and so was confused about this conversation. What happened? And you're like, I wish I had a recording, things like that. But I think having them repeat it to make sure y'all on the same page before y'all leave the room.
And that's so good. And here's the deal: that's an art to doing that because you can can quickly get into the disrespect bucket, like But I think when you do it well, it's such a cheat code because it's like, hey, you certify in that person's mind, in your mind, that we know what we're talking. Like, hey, just let me know. I just want to know if you heard me. You know what I'm saying? Am I hearing words that we using the same language? So I love that.
Tell me what you heard. Hey, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So can you just tell me what you heard? If you say, okay, now repeat back to me what I just said, then that makes them feel like they're a baby. But if you just say, hey, I want to make sure we're on the same page. So can you just tell me what you heard? I'm going to write it down too, just so that we're on the same page. Then it goes well. But you have to say it the right way. Because if you say, okay, tell me what you heard, they look at you like, I'm not a baby.
Right.
I get what you said. But I always say that too. Actually, like the game of telephone, right? Maybe y'all are too young to know the game of telephone. Maybe that was just for us who didn't have iPads and things. But, it's like you sit in a circle and like you whisper, one person starts the telephone and it says like the pig wore pink lipstick. By the time it gets to the sixth person, it's like there's an astronaut in space 3 days ago. Like it's completely different. So even in a conversation where it's one-on-one or one-on-two, there's 3 people in this conversation, what each person hears is completely different. And so that, like, what did you hear is a key piece. My husband even told me when I was coaching this, he's like, I'm going to use that. It's important because especially when there's a lot of emotions involved, like they're only hearing certain things. They don't get the whole thing. And so then you leave the whole conversation and it's like,
And I would just again, I guess maybe to add some structure into this, like I think to me in crucial conversations, there's 2 big moments to get that repeat back. One, hey, do we understand the infraction? 2, do we understand the solution? Like I think those 2 are worth getting repeated back to you. So great call out, Ashley. Anyone else? I know Blake, you've been on fire. Blake and Quentin, man, clap it up for y'all, and Owen and Philip. You guys have been amazing this Lead Better. Y'all been carrying us a little bit, in the conversation. So kudos to y'all for that. But Blake, go ahead and expound on your answer for me.
Yeah, I think it summarizes what's been said over the past couple of minutes. Is really how can they take the conversation personal. Sometimes you do have to give the solution, but I think getting to that solution has to include them, because personal ownership up in here will create the most change. If they don't have ownership in it and you're just giving them, here's your checklist, this is what you're doing wrong, they don't give them a how to change or what you're expecting to change, then there's no like, okay, well, I did something different, but is it what you wanted? Is it what you didn't want? And I think following up in that last thing, every conversation that I end with is, okay, what are action items that we can walk away from this conversation with? Maybe just 2. Like it may be, hey, you're going to change your schedule, as was mentioned earlier. But maybe it's the second one. Hey, I'm going to make sure this checklist is done. And when I come in, I'm going to make sure that I do X, Y, Z. So I definitely agree with everything said, but I think that personal ownership creates the most change.
Oh, definitely. Love that. Quentin, you got your hand raised.
I was just gonna say the one more important thing that we're all kind of touching on that I think is really important is the relationship that builds when you have these crucial conversations, because no one's having that conversation but possibly the three people that are in that room or that one-on-one in that room. So I sometimes, not sometimes, my main, I guess, goal as I leave a meeting after we do what we call an action plan is basically review everything that we talked about. And if I know that relationship, or if I am a part of that relationship, or I'm trying to build it, I start with setting out how do we want to achieve this, and how are you going to remember it. And sometimes you do got to walk it with them because they're new. This is their first job, or they've never been experienced with something like this. Because right now I work at Chick-fil-A, so some people come from those different backgrounds that it doesn't fit in that scenario. But the after effect is after that 24 hours, that day if you worked with them, sometimes going up to them saying, "Hey, pull them to the side. How do you feel about that conversation yesterday? What do you think you're going to set out to do today?" And if you can't afford to do it, because I don't know everyone's schedule, but can't do it that time, find it the next time you see them. I think it just goes that extra step into building that relationship, because now that might be a person that wants to work with you for however long it may be.
No, that is a cherry on top for sure. I think when leveraged well is a very classy way to put a bow on a crucial conversation. Like it's a classic parenting thing. Like if you just had I'm gonna use air quotes, crucial conversation with your parents, and then a little while later they go, "Hey, I just had that conversation because I love you," or "Hey, you good with that?" Or you. So I love that look. That is a touch of class and leadership that will take a crucial conversation to the next level, because then they're going to look at you as more than just the manager that was in that conversation. They're going to look at you as a friend, or that's going to strengthen the relationship. I love that, Quentin. Do we have any other comments or questions before we land? You guys have been amazing. So on today's Lead Better. If not, man, I'm going to do my spill at the end. Thank you guys so much for joining. As you guys know, those of you who are before I go, Miss Giovanna, yes, ma'am. Now do it.
I think one thing that I just was thinking about is what. So for I mean, I'm going to say this at Chick-fil-A in general, but a lot of times we have to have these crucial conversations that are uncomfortable because we haven't done the back work. Does that make sense? And when accountability is had all throughout the relationship, which we're human and we're going to make mistakes, and I get all of that. But when we have issues with leaders or team members, a lot of time it's because we haven't, done the things we needed to do prior to that crucial conversation. And so I think that's one thing. There's a tool, Chick-fil-A uses it, ESRC, expectations, skills, resources, consequences, that I feel like is really a really good tool for us to use before we go into the conversation. For yourself, okay, so first thing, let's use Sally, who's late, right? Okay, expectation. Did we clearly communicate in orientation, how to set your schedule and hot schedules? What do we call late? There's different restaurants, or if you're within 5 minutes, it's not late. Okay, that's great. So did we give clear expectations? Then I go into skills. Does this person have the skills? Did we train them well? Did we do our part? Then resources, and then consequences. I think if you do the E, the S, and the R well, the C is not hard. The consequence isn't hard. The C only becomes hard when there hasn't been clear expectations. We didn't give the proper skills and or resources to the team member to be able to do the job well. And therefore it becomes kind of it's a little muddy on what should the consequences look like. Does that make sense? And so I think we talk a lot about crucial conversations and hard conversations, but we actually don't talk about the things that can make that really easy. Did I lay it out very clearly so that, Sally knows that if she, doesn't show up to work, and this is what on time means, then after this many points, she can get fired, so on and so forth. And so I think we didn't take it that far kind of back, but I always like when there's a conversation in my brain that I feel like I'm going to have that's really difficult, I go through expectation, skills, resources, consequences. And I'm like, okay, this is a very like easy, objective thing that we can have a conversation about. And I can pull up the team members' time punch on at Chick-fil-A, and I can print out their time punch over the last 2 months and like say, hey, here's, we gave you clear expectations. Here's this, every highlighted one is how many times you've been late. We have it documented. You've received points. I really want to understand why you can't show up on time. Let's just talk through that. But like, it's really put on the other person because there was clear expectations, skills, resources, so that the consequences is easy.
And last thing, when you express a genuineness in wanting to like, hey, I really want to see you succeed, and I'm really needing to know, why is this not happening? That disarms a person big time, and makes them and put the onus on them, and then you're left with a person who either says, well, I really don't care, that's why, or I care, I'm gonna get better. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Right. And so that's, to me, is what makes it easy, is like, we've done the thing. I used to get so frustrated. I'll since you were very honest, Alex, I'll be very honest too. Like, I would just think that everyone thought like me, right? And so like, if Alex told me like, hey, Giovanna, I need you to do this thing, I like that as top priority. Okay, great. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to get it done, or I'm going to do it tonight, or whatever it is. Well, I always thought my leaders, I'm like, hey, I need this to get done. But I didn't tell them a by when, or like, so they put it on their list of 18 things. And so 3 days later, not going to test this, I come to them and say, hey, did that get done? And they're like, no, I've been doing these 5 other things I didn't get. And so I would get so frustrated. But when I started really using the ESRC, I was like, I didn't give a clear expectation. Hey, I need you to get this done by tomorrow. So then when I follow up, the expectation was very clear. Like, then the person on the other end of the conversations, they're like, I know you told me I needed it done by tomorrow. I didn't get it done. Here's why I didn't get it done. And I'll say, okay, this is why and make sure my why is clear. This is why I needed you to get this done tomorrow. And so I think I've used that for myself, because you have to learn that not everybody thinks the way you do.
No, definitely. Thank you so much for that, Giovanna. And all right, we are coming to a close, and thank you guys for, such a rich conversation, such an engaging conversation. We like I said, I'm not kidding. This is probably one of the most interactive, where the audience had a chance to really participate in the lead better. So Blake, Philip, Owen, Quentin, you guys have been amazing participants in today's show, and today's session rather.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I just want to slip this in right quick so you'll never forget. It's all about progress over perfection here at TPE.
Tap into the Pivot Experience, where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.